Have you ever looked up and seen a plane leaving a long, thick trail behind it and thought, what is that? Some people might worry it's something harmful being dumped from the sky. But what you're likely seeing is something called fuel jettison, or fuel dumping. And believe it or not, it's a crucial safety procedure that pilots sometimes have to perform. So, why would a plane ever need to dump perfectly good, and very expensive, fuel in mid-air? Let's dive into the fascinating world of aviation safety to find out. First, we need to understand a fundamental principle of aircraft design. Planes have two different maximum weight limits. There's a maximum takeoff weight and a maximum landing weight. The maximum takeoff weight is, as you might guess, the heaviest an aircraft is allowed to be when it lifts off the ground. The maximum landing weight, however, is almost always lower. Why the difference? It all comes down to structural integrity. Landing is one of the most stressful phases of a flight for an airplane's structure. The impact of touching down on the runway puts enormous force on the landing gear, the wings, and the fuselage. The aircraft is specifically engineered to handle this force, but only up to a certain weight. If it tries to land while being too heavy, it risks serious structural damage. This could mean a collapsed landing gear, damage to the wing roots, or even worse. So, manufacturers set a strict maximum landing weight to ensure every landing is a safe one. Now, think about a typical long-haul flight. Let's say a Boeing 777 is flying from New York to Tokyo. To make that incredibly long journey, it needs a massive amount of fuel. We're talking about tens of thousands of gallons, which can weigh over 100 tons. This huge fuel load is a major part of the aircraft's total weight at takeoff. The flight plan is designed so that by the time the plane reaches its destination many hours later, it will have burned off most of that fuel. Its weight will have naturally decreased, bringing it well below the maximum safe landing weight. This is the normal, everyday operation for thousands of flights. Everything goes according to plan. The plane burns fuel, gets lighter, and lands safely. But what happens when things don't go according to plan? Imagine that same flight takes off from New York, fully loaded with fuel for a trans-Pacific journey. But just 30 minutes after takeoff, a critical issue arises. It could be a medical emergency with a passenger, a technical problem with an engine, or a fire alarm in the cargo hold. Whatever the reason, the captain makes the decision that they need to turn around and land back at the departure airport immediately. Here's the problem. The plane is still extremely heavy. It's barely burned any of the fuel it needed for the long trip. It is far, far above its maximum safe landing weight. Attempting to land in this condition would be incredibly dangerous and could lead to a catastrophic failure of the aircraft's structure upon touchdown. This is where fuel dumping comes in. For the aircraft to land safely, it needs to get rid of that excess weight, and it needs to do it quickly. The fastest way to shed weight is to jettison the fuel. Only certain types of large, long-haul aircraft are equipped with fuel dumping systems. Smaller planes, like a Boeing 737 or an Airbus A320, that are used for shorter domestic flights, usually don't have them. That's because the difference between their maximum takeoff weight and maximum landing weight is much smaller. If they need to return to the airport shortly after takeoff, they can typically just circle in a holding pattern for a while to burn off the necessary amount of fuel before landing. But for a giant like a 777 or an A380, circling for hours isn't a practical option. Especially in a true emergency where every minute counts. So, how does fuel dumping actually work? The system consists of nozzles, usually located near the wingtips, that can be opened by the pilots from the cockpit. When activated, powerful pumps force the fuel out through these nozzles at a very high rate. A large aircraft can dump over a ton of fuel every single minute. The fuel is released as a fine mist, not a solid stream. Now, you might be thinking, isn't dumping thousands of gallons of jet fuel into the atmosphere incredibly harmful and dangerous? That's a valid concern, and it's something aviation authorities take very seriously. Pilots don't just dump fuel anywhere. There are strict international procedures they must follow. First, they have to declare the emergency and inform air traffic control of their intention to jettison fuel. Air traffic control will then guide the aircraft to a designated fuel dumping area, which is almost always over a large body of water or a sparsely populated, high-altitude area. The procedure is typically carried out at an altitude of at least 6,000 feet, and often much higher. At this altitude, the liquid jet fuel atomizes into a fine vapor as it hits the air. Because it's released as a mist, it evaporates very quickly and disperses over a vast area. the vast majority of it never even reaches the ground as a liquid. Studies have shown that the environmental impact of a single fuel dumping event is minimal, especially when compared to the potential catastrophe of an overweight landing. The decision to dump fuel is never taken lightly. It's a last resort reserved for genuine emergencies. Pilots run through extensive checklists to confirm there are no other viable options. They consider the nature of the emergency, the weather conditions, and the aircraft's current weight. Only when it's determined that an immediate landing is necessary, and the aircraft is too heavy to do so safely, will they proceed with the jettison procedure. It's a calculated measure to protect the lives of everyone on board, and to ensure the aircraft can be brought back to the ground in one piece. So, the next time you hear about a plane dumping fuel, you'll know it's not some careless act. It's a highly controlled, well-rehearsed safety maneuver that showcases the incredible foresight and engineering that goes into modern aviation. It's a pilot using the tools at their disposal to manage a difficult situation and prioritize the ultimate goal of every flight: a safe landing. It's one of the many invisible safety nets that make air travel one of the safest forms of transportation in the world. It's a testament to the idea that in aviation, preparing for the unexpected is key. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this explanation interesting, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of aviation and technology. Fly safe, and see you in the next video.